In today's video, I'm going to give you my personal opinion on whether I think Wamai or Jager is better, and which to use in what kind of scenario, depending on what site you're going, your play style, what your teammates are doing, stuff like that. So without further ado, let's get straight in the video. Alright, so firstly, we're going to go over the loadout section of the video. So, I'm going to give you my opinion on whose loadout I think is better. So, firstly, you have the 416C carbine, one of the best defensive guns in the game. It has 38 damage with 25 bullets and 740 fire rate. A few seasons ago, they nerfed his recoil, and it's a lot harder to control, but they also have been nerfing his damage by 1 or 2 damage slightly over the years, so it's not as good as it once was, but it's still a great AR nonetheless, and I really do recommend you use it. It's better than both of the primaries on Wamai, arguably in terms of damage and fire rate, but that's just for his first primary. His second primary, the M87 shotgun, is actually a pretty good shotgun, especially at the closer range, obviously because it's a shotgun, but this thing can one-shot kill people at a very long range, just like the SAS shotgun can. And if you play around it correctly, it can actually be a very good shotgun. And for the secondary, he has a P12, 44 damage, 15 bullets, overall a very easy to control pistol. It's just one of the better, well-rounded pistols in the game, in my opinion, so very good looking in the gun selection so far. He has the barbed wire and the bulletproof camera as his secondary, so just more info gathering things, but also more things that can be covered by his ADSs, so a lot more variety there as well. And then we have Wamai's loadout. So Wamai has two very good primary fires. He has the MP5K and the AUG A2. Now these are both very good weapons. If you want a 1.5 with less damage but more fire rate, the MP5 is your option, but if you want something with higher damage and lower fire rate, the AUG is going to be your friend, but it doesn't have the option of the 1.5, so most of the time you're going to opt out for the MP5K. Being that it's an SMG and not an AR, it is worse than Jager's gun in my opinion, just in terms of feel and how much damage it does and how oppressive the gun can be with your playstyle. But because of all of the nerfs and the recoil, especially on console, not being able to control that recoil as much, I can see why many people would think that Wamai's loadout, at least for his primaries, are a lot better. And that's completely valid. In my personal opinion, it's not, but I can see why you would think that way. Going into his secondary guns, he has the Karatos and the P12. Again, the P12 was on Jager. I already talked about how good I think it is, but he also has the Karatos. Now, the Karatos does 78 damage as a pistol with only 6 bullets, so it 2-taps attackers, which is very, very good. But it also has a high caliber of gun, meaning that it can open up wooden walls and create lines of sight through floor, through head holes, and give you a lot of versatility there. So I think that's very good. Personally, I run the MP5 and the Karatos. And then he has impact grenades for rotates and other versatility like that if you're on the roam, and proximity alarms. So between Wamai and between Jager, my personal vote on who I think has the better loadout, not even considering ability, I have to give it to Jager. But if we're talking about who has the most versatile loadout and can do the most things, then I'd of course give it to Wamai because of the Karatos and the amount of options he has for his primaries. Plus the impact grenades just give him a very well-rounded kit. But because he has so many options, those options that he do have are not as oppressive as, let's say, Jager's AR and barbed wire and a bulletproof cam over some proximity alarms, right? So Jager takes this round. The second category I'm going to run these two operators through is the versatility of their gadget, right? Which one provides the most use out of one single gadget? The Jager ADS can catch any grenade in the game. Frag grenades, flash grenades, smoke grenades, anything of that nature, right? On the other hand, the Wamai disc can catch any single projectile in the game, except for Habana pellets after the nerf. So you're talking not only everything an ADS can catch, right? But then you have Capital bolts, you have gridlock tracks, you have ace charges, you have Zofia stuns, ash charges. Pretty much any projectile ability in the game can be caught by a Wamai disc and cannot be caught by a Jager ADS. So in terms of versatility, this round goes to Wamai. Now, I'm going to go into overall usefulness for this next category. So, being versatile is amazing, but if that versatility doesn't actually provide much use for the team 9 times out of 10, then it's completely useless. Now, I'm not saying that Wamai doesn't do this, but for Wamai's magnet, you're only really able to put a single disc in one space just because of how Wamai discs work. So if a grenade is caught into one disc and that grenade explodes and there's other discs nearby, it's going to explode the discs around it. Whereas ADSs will completely just nullify the grenade instead of catching it and exploding it in a different area. So that is the only weakness of Wamai, is because of the nature of how Wamai's pull in things and explode them, and also because of how Wamai himself works, getting multiple charges and only being able to throw them wherever he's playing, you can't actually make full strats with Wamai and stack his magnets like you would be able to do with Jager. So Jager, you're able to stack 3 ADSs, you're able to stack multiple on a shield and one on another shield, and because of the rechargeability, you can actually catch more with Jager ADSs in a perfect world than you would be able to with magnets. And Jager works out and helps you more throughout rounds statistically than magnets do. What do I mean by this? I mean, if you have Jager and you're using him for shields, utility, or players, it's a lot safer of a bet than a Wamai magnet is, because magnets you only get a one-time use out of if there's only one there, and Jager ADSs you get an infinite amount of recharge on. Now, against coordinated teams, are you going to get burnt and then naded anyways? Yes. So that is a good point against Jager, but you can do the same thing against Wamai, so that point really is invalid. So in terms of overall usefulness and getting your most bang for your buck every single round, I'm going to have to give this round to Jager. The next category I'm going to be bringing you is playstyle. So the amount of versatility of playstyles that you're allowed to do, or the freedom that you have on an operator, is what's going to determine the winner of this round. So let's talk about Wamai. You have a lot of versatility with Wamai in terms of his secondary gadgets, his primary guns, and the Keratos being able to open a lot of wooden and soft walls. But because of the nature of Wamai, you have to place 2 Wamai magnets on random things that you're not going to be playing off of, and then wherever you're playing off of in the immediate part of the beginning of the round is wherever the rest of your magnets are going to go. So inherently Wamai is useful, but he's only useful for the entire team if you're sitting in sight using his magnets to protect utility and protect round wins, right? Jager, on the other hand, you can place all of his shit down and play however you want to. You can anchor on site, you can play a more flex position where you're supporting teammates and roamers, and you can play as a roamer himself, and it doesn't matter either way. He's a 2-speed 2 armor just like Wamai is, but because you're able to pre-place all of his stuff, and he has a great gun that can be played in a multitude of ways, that means Jager's playstyle is a lot more versatile than Wamai's would be. Now, you're saying, what do you mean his gun gives him a variety of playing multitude of ways, right? That doesn't make much sense. So you're going to be able to play a lot more versatile and roam and lurk a lot more than you would be able to with an SMG-11 compared to someone like Vigil's AR, right? Because if you don't have a lot of range on a gun, if you don't have a lot of damage on a gun, you can't rely on your gun as a failsafe if you make a mistake on the roam or if you're going for frags. Now, you can go for frags as somebody with an SMG-11, but it's not always a safe bet. You have to take those close range gunfights, and because they have to come to you and you're on defense, you're going to be guaranteed a close range gunfight on site and not necessarily off site. And that's why you want better guns off site than you do on site, and it's a lot safer to do that with Jager than it is with Wamai. So yes, his guns, his loadout, the ability to be able to pre-place all of his gadgets make it to where he is able to be played in a lot more versatile of ways, making him easier to be picked up by a multitude of players, right? New players, existing players, roamers, people that play crazily, right? People that sit on site, people that support the entire team, flex players, right? So in terms of playstyle versatility, I have to give this round to Jager. Now, I don't know if you've been actually paying attention to what I've been saying, but I keep throwing around the term with coordinated teams, right? I talked about how Jager and Wamai are essentially useless against coordinated teams. Now, this is true for both operators, but it's less true for Wamai. So this is going to bring me into my next category, which is who's better at a higher level. So as you go lower into the ranks, Jager is way more oppressive because of the infinite rechargeability of his ADSs. You're not going to have coordinated teams that are going to be throwing 3 flashes and then 2 grenades to clear out a site and some utility, but you will have that at the higher ranks. So with Jager, he's a lot better at the lower ranks, but Wamai is actually a lot better at the higher ranks. As a competitive player, as someone who gets placed in Plat 2 and doesn't play ranked for the rest of the season, so a semi-high elo, right, I can tell you that Wamai is a lot more useful in the higher elo and just the higher echelon of playing. This is because Wamai is able to shut down coordinated pushes with the fact that he can throw out Wamai discs and replace old ones that have been destroyed on the fly. So let's say that I'm playing behind a shield in Piano on Chalet, and they're burning all of my magnets, and I have magnets left over. I can re-put those magnets down, and now I can't get naded, and they have no burn from my shield, right? So very good against coordinated teams, still good against uncoordinated teams, right? But Jager's just always going to be better because instead of having only 5 or so charges, he has an infinite amount. So I'm going to give Wamai this round. I want to give y'all a definite answer on who I think is better. But as a Siege player, you have to understand that every single operator has their own role in the game, right? Not one operator is always going to be better than others. Thatcher is always going to be more useful than Caveira, but because these two operators do practically the same job, one is just for one certain type of play and map, and the other is just for another certain type of play and map, I can't really give a definite say on who I think is better. But if I had to pick one, I'm gonna have to pick Jager. Jager all the way. I love the versatility that Wamai brings, and I think for a certain site and a certain map, he's a lot more useful than Jager's ever going to be. But overall, with the majority of the player base being in silver and gold and below, Jager's always going to be better for them. Now, higher elo, if you're in plat and above and you're playing competitively, they're pretty much equal, and I honestly want to say that Wamai's better. But my definite answer is it depends on what rank you're in. Do with that info what you will. My name's Alka. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, leave a sub, turn on the bell notifications. It would mean a lot to me. It helps my channel out a lot. If you don't know, I also make content for the pro team Astralis R6. Go check their channel out. And that's it. I'll see you in the next one.